Guys, at this point, you know who it is, man. But I'll tell you anyway, it's Dave Grindall, YouTube, Dave Grindall, Grindall, with a space in between the two, @OfAMadPanda on Twitter. And everywhere you can find me, I'm trying to have the discussion about getting some steam, some power, some dedication put behind the Star Wars reboot that I've crafted. And my plea is that the fan base will get involved and help me to put out the perfect product. What I want is for every single person, new fans and old, young, elderly, aged, seasoned, loving the galaxy, players of the video games, readers of the novels, lovers of the expanded universe, and original movies, all the television series, come together with me. Listen to these couple of podcasts, man, these throwdowns about what the reboot consists of, everything that's going to be different, this widely transformed galaxy that we will see a heck of a lot more of, with a ton more well-developed characters that deserve to live and breathe and interact in this awesome sandbox playground. Do me the solid of hitting up some of these others now. I mean, for me, I just sort of was in haste and threw out as many podcasts as I could, and, tried to get rid of the less coherent ones because, there are times where I sort of go out on rants and rambles and talk about way too many things at once, and I tried to refocus that into a format that would be friendly for even those that wanted to sit down for a couple minutes and give a listen. I think that it is obvious to everybody, especially adults, millennials, under which the category I identify. We do shell out for video games, for movies, to go to the movies, to own the series physically for ourselves or buy it as a digital copy throughout any number of media. But I think it's important to remember to give players their money's worth, to give fans their money's worth, their time's worth. And it's what's driven me to be out here every night. And I appreciate the hundreds of views, the listens, the follows on Twitter, the retweets. It means a lot to me that I can put out something I'm confident in and see what I was not just hoping but expecting to see. That epicenters of the fan base on social media and, across the waves aren't afraid to get in the ring with me and start talking about this more seriously and give it some support, both just by listening and promulgating it, but also getting involved in the project itself and helping me to find out just who to talk to about making this a reality. Now, I think that the internet in general is filled with people who have ideas, and they throw them out there. I definitely identify myself in that category, but when I went on YouTube, only after having submitted already a few podcasts, put them out there on Spreaker and shared them via Twitter, Facebook, iHeartRadio, and YouTube, when I started listening to other Star Wars reboot ideas, there was a lot of people that went the distance and wrote a script and started reading the script off. And what really astounded me was how many of them, unfortunately and realistically, weren't good. They weren't that good, man. They were not just it seemed to me like somebody didn't want to change anything about the Star Wars universe, and they wanted to work strictly within the canon, strictly within the bonds of what's already been laid down somewhere. Now, for all I know, there are tens, if not hundreds of thousands of more Star Wars fan fictions out there, scripts that have been promulgated and found support, most likely, for either their versions of episodes 7, 8, and 9, or reboots of the series or extra series, extra movies, extra television shows. Pardon me. I'm so sorry about that. I couldn't pause in time. So sharing a human moment with me as a burp for you. So pardon me for getting off track there for a second. And when I stack without bias, it's the one gift that I'll claim without a hint of pride or even, the fake humility that people put on. When I write things that suck, when I read them after I write them, they essentially disappear. Because I'm like, man, that felt so good and so real while I was writing it. But in retrospect, no. Or if I put it by my fiance, and she, being herself a writer and a talented one, when she gives me grammatical corrections and editing, I know I've done an okay job. At least. Because if it was bad, she would immediately be like, it was okay, or it wasn't that good. And then I know, let me read it again and try to envision it on the screen. And it doesn't pan out the way it felt when I was writing it. This has not yet been the inkling of the case. An inkling of the case with the Star Wars reboot. Because when I see the movies in my head, from start to finish, 2 hours condensed into a range of iconic moments, powerful shifts in the storyline, very, very powerful, very candid and vivid pictures of characters in situations that, there are a million ways to break down all of the original Star Wars movies. And people have their favorite parts. People defend different characters very vigorously, and they try to draw from what they believe was true about the character, and they put that against one another as opinion. Whether it comes to certain characters being better than others, plot points, and what was the deeper move behind those plot points, it intrigues me. It gets me fired up and interested even more in the subject, where right now I could not be more interested in Star Wars. But even I have not seen Episode 7. Now, for me, it was a very busy time in life. It's been, unfortunately, since quite a distance before the release of Episode 7. And my goal was to sit down with my oldest stepdaughter and tell her, because she was interested in Episode 7, I said, listen here, we'll watch 1 through 6, get you into the series. I'll be there to answer any of your questions. It'll be sweet. We'll take a weekend and we'll just plow through them all, hopefully extended editions, if we can find them. And then we'll go see Episode 7 and it'll be cool. But that never happened. And I think I'm just, because I have been so thoroughly enraptured in how good, to its core, to the meaning, to its essence, good, and how it's turned out, I don't want to see Episode 7 anymore. And that doesn't mean I never will, but everything that bothered me in the prequels, everything I thought that should have been a big deal that wasn't, individuals feel that every day about different movies, different things, man, that they could have done it better, or their personality leads them to love the things that I think should be changed. And that is the conflict point that I have striven to avoid by saying, do not come here and sit in the seat. Don't spend a dime if you aren't going to sit down and watch it knowing that, they're just like the VHS copies with the Leonard Maltin prelude before the episode began for the original trilogy. I would definitely take 5 minutes and explain, as the person who's taken full responsibility for it, I would sit down and say, Star Wars is one of the most incredible realms created in fiction. It is something that all of us can find something to love in. And there are billions of us around the world who feel this way in some capacity, because nobody's going to see one in nth. A huge number of people that you're going to come across saw Star Wars and felt anything other than like, oh, well, you know, it wasn't like, that's not my thing, right? A complete dismissal. Or they're going to say they love it. There's nobody that hates Star Wars. I mean, at least I've never met any, and that seems like a weird thing to hate. And there was no passé feelings other than the ones of like, well, you know, my friends really wanted me to watch it, and I'm not into sci-fi at all. And it's whatever. Because it was a good epic. It was a good saga. And I have reforged so many key details that make for, in my opinion, a much more compelling view of the same galaxy, of the same time frame, and the same major events affecting this cast of characters and this rich, full, huge galaxy. So, I mean, there's where I stand. Now, I mean, I'll give you a little bit of a slice, and I mean, this to me is completely random. I'm going to freestyle, kind of make this up on the spot. But if you know, I've had a conversation or two with my buddy who came out of nowhere asking if who I thought was a better Jedi, Obi-Wan or Luke. And at the beginning of the week, or during the weekend when it started, he was drinking halfway, like across the country, you know, at a Navy base. Me, post-Navy, chilling here with my family in northern Florida. He in SoCal. I was like, oh, Obi-Wan, of course. And I had this huge discussion with him where I threw all of these stats from Obi-Wan at him, trying to convince him that this epic general with this huge legacy that was one of the few Jedi to survive like the extinction hunt down and stand as only with Master Yoda, who anybody would say was like the greatest Jedi, who much would say was the most powerful Jedi. Like nobody could really come across him. I mean, he did get put down by the Emperor, had to escape and live in the bogs of a backwater planet for how many years? 10, 15, 20 years before he gave up the ghost when Luke came around. Then through discussing with him, nothing he said other than Luke is the more powerful Jedi, and he achieved mastery in his training much more quickly than Obi-Wan did. And my thought was like, how do you know? You have no idea what Obi-Wan was like as a student. I mean, Obi-Wan was able to defeat the strength and cunning and speed of Darth Maul alongside Qui-Gon Jinn after Qui-Gon Jinn had already been killed. So they couldn't kill him as a team, which, unfortunately, it doesn't really break down like that in the reboot, in the essence of the whole construct. And really, Qui-Gon Jinn doesn't come in because it's not about Anakin's childhood. He comes into it simply in the sense of being on the Jedi Council, and he'll be one of those other figures that fight throughout the Clone Wars and achieve their destiny a little bit further down the line. Dude, if we could get Neeson, if we could get Liam to play him again, because he's been being a badass, and he can just be older in the films, right? But we'll get Neeson back in the saddle, and with all his murdering lately in movies, he should definitely be murking some droids and, you know, fleshy opponents. Now, I'll pluck Ewan right back into it. You think I'm playing around? We'll have the original cast for most of the movies. Now, okay, because Han Solo is still a character, Chewbacca is still a character, I think all of these lovable icons from throughout this original series as characters should definitely come back into it. Now, you know what will distract people is if I cast a black guy as Han Solo. I realize that, okay? But to me, you have to understand, I've always thought when it comes to movies, there are casting picks that draw a lot of attention, but then it's like, why in the hell did you cast him? Why, oh why did you cast Maximus Decimus Meridius as an old grumpy Javert? Okay? To me, I would just intently grill anybody who was like, I want to play the lead. The person who came to me and said, I am Anakin Skywalker. I'm the true Anakin Skywalker. Not the lifetime that was given in the prequels. I am a gritty, angry, self-centered, sociopathic, and psychopathic, extremely powerful, force-intuitive beast who struggles constantly to be something more. And the dialogue, which is as of yet unwritten, except for the few times that when describing a scene, I've wanted to convey the tone and the mindset of a character, and so I've given them some lines, and I think that's turned out pretty well every time, exceptionally well. But have these dialogues where I would be Obi-Wan Kenobi and you, blank, would be Anakin Skywalker. You have just been informed by Darth Sidious, the leader of the fallen Jedi that are running the Separatists in the Civil War. He has told you the truth, and he's revealed to you at a crucial moment in the course of the war that you have been lied to. You have been lied to for a decade, since at first you curbed your dreams and aspirations and true intuition that you were the chosen one, the Jedi of prophecy that came at a time when the whole fate of the galaxy and the measure of the Force would have a polar shift, and it would, and life as it is known would be in the balance. And during this time of incredible conflict and chaos and death, that one would be born that would play the crucial role to strike the finishing blow and bring peace by neutralizing the Force altogether, by allowing the Force to become true in one form or the other. Now, the prophecy never said whether the light side or the dark side would triumph, because the legends about the more cryptic end of the story are, of course, lost. And for 10 years, you were born and raised to the age of 8 as a slave. And it's not any light and fluffy episode 1 slavery. Like, your mother, Shmi, has to give everything of herself, her body, her mind, her labor, her soul, and be a complete object in the possession of criminal underlords on the planet of Tatooine. And you are raised under her domicile hand of protection, in which the only way she keeps the criminal world from taking you, from corrupting you, from abusing you, and to just be left alone, she gives everything of herself. Now you, being, your mind is heavily infused with the Force, and it makes emotion and empathy something that's a little bit disconnected. You see her being treated like absolute garbage, like trash, like nothing, like property that somebody doesn't care about, your owner doesn't care about. You despise her for her weakness, because something in you lets you know that you are much more than the fickle tone of life, of human life, of sentience. And you understand that you are more. And unintentionally, not should I say unintentionally, but indirectly, based off your emotions, your feelings, what's happening around you, you are able to interact with the environment in ways that is magical and possible. Now, there are 1,000, 1,000,000 names for the Force throughout all of the cultural diversity and crazy density of life in the galaxy. And one day, your mother is essentially beaten aside when she, attempts to offer her body so they wouldn't mess with you for a client. Okay? She is beaten and thrown aside, and they come for you, and you just crush them, like as if altering the gravity all around them to break them. And you sever your chains from the wall, and then you go to crush the next wave, and nothing happens. And you feel dizzy, you feel lightheaded. And you recover yourself just enough to run. And when the men try to grab you as you dart for the door, they are pushed back, but it's not strong enough. It doesn't kill them. You just run and run, twisting through this compound, unleashing bursts of emotionally raw Force power until you are finally on the edge of passing out, and you crawl at a ship port, a spaceport, through the winding streets of the trade district. You finally come and you crawl into the back of a ship. A droid tries to stop you, but you interface with it quickly, and never having touched a droid, essentially reprogram it to recognize you as friendly and crawl into the storage bay and pass out. You are discovered by this crew of smugglers and pirates that, whose ship it was. And they essentially say, like, look, kid, you're good for a few things. You'll make good money where we just got you from, who will probably pay out the ass for you. Number two, you're good to be sold as a slave anywhere, and there's plenty of planets where slavery is going to be worse than others. And number three, you could be my cabin boy. Now, the fact that you just did all that damage and escaped is pretty impressive, so I'm kind of wanting to take you on there, friendo. And you, little Anakin, disable the whole ship. Gravity, life support, lights, everything. The ship, with nothing but you slowly closing your eyes and focusing on what's around you. And when everybody starts to choke, you let them go. And you say, and the guy essentially is like, what the hell are you, kid? And you're like, I don't know, but you're going to help me find out. And you interface with the data libraries, the wireless data libraries for the Republic information system, and learn everything about the history of the Republic, because your mind is a crazy machine. And you learn everything about the Republic, all the history. You learn about the Jedi, Dark Jedi. You find out all this magic and mystery about yourself is, in truth, due to the Force. And you learn of the Force, but you also learn of the craziness of humankind and how life is in the Republic. So you say to the captain of the ship, like, how about this? Everybody on the ship lives, and you can take me to planet whatever, where the Jedi Council is stationed at, and I want my questions answered. And the guy says, like, excuse me, I'm a criminal, and I would never go there, and you force choke him, and you, like, pull him towards you, and you see this man. Everybody is fully shocked. They're in shock at what they're seeing. His whole crew of hardened guys that aren't, like, raider badasses. They're real people. They're real smugglers and pirates, but they're not murderers. And as you choke the life from this captain, staring at him with a cold stare the whole time. And maybe you say to him, like, now that I know everything about now that I know everything about life, it's pretty obvious, or it's like it's more than obvious where it's not deserved. And like snap his neck, or he just chokes out, let him drop, and pull his like leather coat off of him and put it on yourself. And the rest of the people look at you, and you're essentially like, okay, well, I'm the captain now. I am the captain now. It's like, he's like, I just need my questions answered, and then after that, and like, for your trouble, any ships we pass on the way, I'll help you overtake. He's like, I'll overtake for you to pay my way. Or he takes the leather coat off of him and puts it on another guy. Like a 12-year-old boy who was super... 12... Yeah, like 12, 11, 10-year-old boy that's like a sidekick to one of the guys, the son of the captain who was just killed, but he was nice to you, and you make him the captain and say, let's go. And he's like, aye, aye. And gets everybody to their stations, and they go. And guess who that little boy is? Fucking Han Solo. And for about 2 to 3 years, Han Solo and Darth Vader... Yeah, okay, because wait, when you leave home, you're 8 years old. Anakin, when you leave home, you're 8 years old, and when you're 20 is when Luke and Leia Skywalker are born. Then Han Solo, if he's 12, will be 24 when you're 20. And then when Luke comes into the story and he's 14, that could still sort of fit with the character model for Han Solo. I mean, he was definitely at least in his 30s, right? I'm sure that information is listed in a million different locations, and I won't concede to have gotten off topic. What I will say is that's my audition. I will build this character for you, but I have to see it in your eyes. I have to feel it from you. As still assuming the responsibility for casting, I would never put you in the shoes of such a true... The character has to be the character. It has to be built off of you, but it's there. You have to be who I'm looking for. You have to be Han Solo. You have to be Anakin Skywalker. You have to be Luke, Leia, Lando. You gotta be Chewie. You gotta be Palpatine. You've gotta be Padme. You've got to be Jabba the Hutt. I think Jabba the Hutt's gonna be played by Terry Crews. And that's my one concession, okay? And I'm not talking about putting Terry Crews in a Jabba the Hutt costume. That's just what Jabba the Hutt... Hutts are all Terry Crews, okay? And they just wear different colored sunglasses, and that's how you tell them apart. So they're like, Maroon Jabba, motherfucker! Pardon me for cursing. You get me. This is it, man. I'm going to wrap it up early, man. I'm just going to jump, or sort of slide right into the outro. I mean, that's a conversation. You see how that developed. We've spent just now a little less than 30 minutes together. And I think you have gotten a picture for what Darth Vader was supposed to be. What my vision of the true foundation for the Darth Vader that will outcap the classic Vader that I love, whose hoodie I wear from the Disney store, $20 free advertising, get there, could be done a million times better. And it was already at level 10,568. And so we're talking ludicrous numbers. Much respect for Star Wars. I'm rebuilding it for us, the fans, in a world where we can make movies look beautiful, sound perfect, and really blow us away and be worth our money. and we've got to do that with Star Wars. Otherwise, somebody who can't live up to those standards will do it. Let's make it happen.